Right, we are returning to the Education Conference Committee, and so we're going to start off with discussing the open enrollment. The House has an offer that we'll initiate, and then I'll turn it over to Chairman Baumgartner. So we would like to use Senate Bill 455 rather than Sub House Bill 2615 with two changes. Those amendments would include eliminating the second transfer, so you would only have one transfer that would be prior to the count day. And we would also like to include public hearing, realizing that that's probably a standard, but having it in statute. So that would be the House's position.
Okay, and we do see that when we say that each school district will adopt policy to do that, it would require board action. But if what you want is a public hearing prior to board action, we will talk about that real quickly. And I do have language that's been requested for our revisers to work on with regard to open enrollment. It just came up. And schools on military posts will need to be excluded from this. A military post school cannot take any students that are not connected to a military family. So we do need to make sure that we get that language in there. So if you'll give us just a quick moment. We are willing to accept the elimination of the spring transfer in, and also that prior to approval of school district policies for open enrollment, that it will include a public hearing of the local school board.
And the House accepts the military position. Okay, that looks like the open enrollment is complete. Everyone? All right. So I'll go ahead and pass out. I typed up a few items here. You could pass these down to your. These items include that we would like to maintain for House Bill 2512, that's the substitute. We'd like to maintain the 5 million in safe schools funding that could also be used for new hires of SROs for that year, and maintain the $100,000 for community at schools that was eliminated from the ESSER funding last year. That's actually just a net of 50,000 because there's already 50,000 in the budget, and that's within the Kansas Department of Education existing budget.
Madam Chair, we will accept the maintaining of the $5 million for safe school funding and the $100,000 for community and schools. If you are willing to accept the 1.5 million in CTE transportation.
And we've talked about that. We're in agreement. The next item on the agenda is the Promise Act. I know that that's a sticking point. I will offer it, and that could be something that we come back to later. That's maintaining the amendment for non-residency with Kansas students as priority. We would ask the revisers to perhaps consider how that would be implemented, if that's possible. And we'll just set that one aside for now. That's okay. The next item is our request for adding House Bill 2747, the tax bill that allows and other programs for K-State and the Johnson Community College.
Okay, we are in opposition of that for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a tax bill. Second of all, What was agreed upon at the rail yesterday afternoon or whatever is not the language that would need to be added. So we do not have in any committee any language. There's been no hearing. And I think that this does need to be vetted. I know that K-State met with individuals with regard to the Johnson County Research Triangle, and that's what it is. It's the Research Triangle, and that is a taxing entity. Now, we do have a representative from Johnson County Community College that serves on that oversight board, but there are several others, um, and they were not a part of any of this discussion. It's my understanding there is some confusion about what is and isn't included with regard to the taxing. So this, I can tell you right now, there's absolutely no one in this room, or at least at this table, that could speak to it. I did talk with the representative from K-State about this, and it's going to need a hearing because we want to make sure that the language is right on this and that the appropriate organizations are at the table when they decide on that language. I can guarantee you, if we were to approve this now and try and come up with some type of language, we'll be right back having to fix it.
All right, thank you, Chairwoman. We will put that with the item of the non-residency for now, a not agreed upon item. There is another item. We do have an amendment from Representative Nguyen, and then I do have one more item that we'd like to accept for you. Representative Nguyen, would you like to explain or would you like Nick to explain?
Nick can explain it first.
Nick and then Representative Nguyen.
So this amendment would amend the math, or not, the virtual math program proviso language. And currently the proviso language provides that participating districts shall essentially report to the KSDE on the use of the program and the academic proficiency gains being seen under the program. And what this amendment would do is it would state that the school districts who are using other virtual math programs and would be reporting as well. And then in addition, KSD would be reporting back on the schools that are not using any virtual math program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the Senate members in our House committee, there was a desire to get data and be able to analyze the results, the outcomes. And so if you remember on whenever we met, Monday, Tuesday, I don't even remember, I asked Nick about the language. Did it allow, excuse me, did it require all schools who opted, those schools who opted out, whether they had to report? And the chair, responded in similarly that we were looking for results and how to analyze success. So this does not, this is an attempt to clarify and make it more direct and clearer for school districts, so that there is a full body of data. Because this, if Nick explained it, like it's read, you're looking at students who participated. Help me, Nick. The teachers who participated, the usage. So that's the amendment. I'll move it.
Okay. All right. So we have an amendment offer. Would you like to discuss that or ask questions? And again, it's about, okay. I'll let you respond.
Okay. So clarify for us, are all school districts to provide some type of additional math learning program for students that are at either level 1 or level 2 on assessment?
Okay. I'll go ahead and respond to that. So it is the selected virtual math program that, again, is not a curriculum, will be statewide and provided to all school districts that have students that are following that 1 and 2 level proficiency. So if the only schools that would be opting out would be and not paying for this would be those schools that have something that fits the statutory requirement if this were to pass, and therefore they would be, according to Representative Wynn, also be providing data and showing their improvement on assessments, math assessments. So then we would be able to actually compare schools that use it compared to schools that use something else. But all schools would be using this as a supplemental program to increase those pretty low math assessment scores.
And again, part of the requirement, if it is not one that is purchased for the state, the requirement is that it is to be virtual.
Yes, it has to be accessible to the student. It has to have other languages available to students. The vendor that we were looking at that was impressive to us actually had apps that could go on every phone, single access point. And yes, it's a tutoring mechanism to help improve math assessment scores. So
We appreciate the balloon amendments, and we will support those balloon amendments from Representative Wynn.
all right, good. We will add that to our amendment. And so just for clarity, before I add one more item that we'd like to accept, for House Substitute House Bill 2512, the Senate is accepting all items that were in 2512 that, except for the items that you pulled out and we discussed. Is that correct?
And those items would be the CTE transportation.
So those items on the chart.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so the outstanding items are the CTE certification, and then the language with regard to the Promise Act, which is not a part of this.
Yes. So the CTE we agree on. We will take the Senate's position for the CTE funding. And in addition to that, we agree to the impact aid. So that leaves us. Go ahead, Senator.
Yes, thank you. With regard to the impact aid, want to be clear that when we are talking about impact aid, we are talking about both components that involve Fort Leavenworth. One is impact aid, and the other is the capital bonding.
Correct.
Okay. We do have a technical amendment that is needed that's specific to the federal impact aid. Oh, excuse me. No, to the bonding. And I know that we will want the revisor to explain this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is going to look like more than what it actually does, just by the nature of legislative drafting. But when the Senate made the amendment to, let's see, we can see it on the third page of the balloon, but it's page 13 of the bill, in line 5. The Senate Ways and Means Committee struck the state aid computation percentage of 75% and put in 51%. That is actually tied to bonds at an election after July 1 of 2015, I believe. And so but it was meant to be July 1 of 2022 and moving forward. It was not meant to be retroactive. So what this does is you can see the attached insert on the very last page essentially repeats the same language that is in that subsection for bonds approved for issuance at an election held on and after July 1, 2022. They will have that state aid computation percentage of 51% instead of 75, which I believe was the intent of the Senate. It just didn't get put in that way. And then all the other changes that you see are technical amendments to correct internal references.
Yes, question from Representative Wynn.
Help me remember again, Senator Baumgartner, how'd you come to 51%?
Thank you. Madam Chair. So the way we came to 51% is we went to the AVPP, and it had been Fort Leavenworth at the top, and that was the 75%. So we removed them because they can never have a bond issue because it's federal land. So we pulled those out. So then the very next one was Elkhart, but that was almost all virtual students. So we dropped them out because we're no longer including virtual students. So the very next on the list is Galena, and they're at the 51%. And so that's how we then, on the run, use the 51% because that enabled us to maintain the status quo with regard to what state aid would be for any of the districts that were eligible for that assistance on their bonding.
All right, that looks good. We accept that technical amendment. All right, Senator, are there other items other than the two outstanding items on residency for the Promise Act and Senate Bill or House Bill 2747? Yes, Senator.
Thank you. There is an additional item, and I'm looking for the bill number. And I apologize. 2716. And that is a particular scholarship that is, it's been in place for some period of time in our state. And we wanted to include some clarification. We also wanted to make sure that we had appropriate funding. Now, the interesting thing about this particular scholarship is, in my mind, when I went back and read through it, and I just want to say a special thank you to my vice chair and to Representative Estes. I know we're not supposed to call people out, but I'm going to do it anyway, because it looked like this was going to be lost in the shuffle. But as I read through the bill, this scholarship really is, to me, designed for honoring our Kansas heroes. So if we can find a way where, when we make reference to this particular scholarship, that we do recognize it as the Kansas Hero Scholarship, and it is designed for those that are family members. It could be a spouse, it could be children of someone that is serving in the military that has either died or is disabled, as well as our first responders. I was concerned to make sure that our first responders included our MedAct folks. We double checked because we sometimes don't recognize just how dangerous their job is when they arrive, particularly when they're on the highways addressing an issue. But we do want to, and you did pass 122 to 0. We do want to put this in. We feel it's a very appropriate fit. Dovetails right in with the Promise Act as well, but we would like to have that in there.
Senator, would you like to see, can we make an amendment to that to call it the Kansas Hero Scholarship? Or if we can make an amendment committee, it looks like that would be great. So we will amend that in changing the name to the Kansas Hero Scholarship. Okay. All right. House accepts. Any other items? So committee, we have 2 remaining items that we need to settle. We will announce if we have something agreed upon. If we do not soon, in a few hours at the latest, then expect to come back tomorrow and I will work with the senator on a time. Does that sound good?
It does sound good, and oh, go ahead.
Representative Hoffman.
Are you guys back on? Are you on still right now? Go back in at 7. We're in right now. I'm just wondering if we can we work through it?
Yes. Let's go to Senator Sykes and then we have a suggestion by Representative Hoffman.
Okay, I just wanted to comment. So I serve on the JCERT board and I have not been aware of this. I know we have an April meeting scheduled for April 25th. So I don't know if that would help play into this so that we could clarify. But I just wanted to share that I do serve on that board. So.
Sure, no problem. And we will just double check on it. Thank you. And Representative Hoffman, your recommendation.
Yeah, I was just, can we maybe work through this? Maybe we can just delay just a few minutes and maybe 15 minutes or something like that. We can kind of talk amongst ourselves and then maybe come back. And I think we're so close, we can almost finish this in just tonight, I think.
We are so close. I will just make this comment on the Promise Act. We have not even had it in place for a year. And the trailer bill that we have before us is to help us move through and improve the process and the procedure and to help institutions get through some of the road bumps that they experienced. I am very concerned about, I'm concerned if in just 2 semesters where we just approved it, it was in effect July 1, so we started fall semester. So in 2 semesters, we believe we will expend 5.5 million. If we are to open it to non-residents, and we are starting what would be the second full year, I feel that the $10 million, I feel it will be a budget buster on the $10 million. So that is a concern to us. We have never in our hearing had any discussion about expanding it beyond Kansas residents.
Yes, could we meet back? Let's maybe, do you think you could? So what we're going to do is we're going to break. We don't have a determined time, but if I will be in contact with Molly and Holly, actually, Senator, and if we can get it resolved quickly, we will schedule another meeting as soon as possible before 7. But I don't have that time. We have the room until 6. So I hate to tell you that, but we would love to get finished. We'll tentatively say 5:45. How about that? 5:45. If we come back and have no answer, we'll let you know. Adjourn.